Alrighty, welcome everyone back here to another live stream on the channel. Hopefully everyone's having a great Tuesday so far. We've got a lot to dive into. We're going to try to do a good breakdown of our models and find out what the most likely case scenario may be for our current tropical storm Aaron. Let's see what we have in the chat today. We have Catman, Pete, Caleb, as well as Pez. We also have Randall in here, Nathan, Chase, Rockets, Brian, Bond, and everyone else who's in the chat who I may have forgotten to welcome, or if you're just now tuning in, hope you're having a great day. And Sam, welcome to the stream as well. Let's go ahead and go over to our main scene here. We've got a lot to talk about. You can see the new cone of uncertainty here. And of course, right off the bat, we have our little browser error that we've always been having here recently. Yeah, I don't know why. I might have to change that completely or just get rid of it, because the SPC always seems to go down with that. I don't know if that's just an issue on my end. Oh, there it is. It's back. All right. So, yeah, we do have Tropical Storm Aaron at the moment. As you can see here, it's currently still at wind speeds of 45 miles per hour. The minimum millibar is still about 1,006, so really not many changes over the last 24 or so hours. Last update obviously was 11 a.m. We'll be live here all the way till about 5 o'clock, so we'll be able to stream that new advisory to see if they change anything. Spoiler, I don't think they're going to be changing much, but they have been slowly but surely shifting this down to the south and southwest. So right now you can see that cone of uncertainty has now been pushed all the way into Puerto Rico. So we actually have seen this shifted quite a considerable amount further to the south. There's a lot of uncertainties with this system, a lot of uncertainties, specifically with the strength and exactly where it's going to go. This is the H-Wharf model one you're looking in, or rather looking at in the background. And you can see it definitely has a Category 3, maybe even Category 4 hurricane north of Puerto Rico, well north of the Lesser Antilles. But look how far north it takes it. I mean, this is taking a due north-northwest trajectory here on the last couple of frames. So if that would be the case, then, you know, the U.S. isn't going to see nearly as much impacts from a system that's going to be turning way out here closer to Bermuda. So we're going to go through all the different scenarios. Obviously, the NHC doesn't think this is a likely scenario. You could see that this main projected track here in the middle. That's their most likely case scenario at the moment. But the center can track anywhere inside of that red cone of uncertainty. So the H-Wharf model, which is another hurricane model run here, We'll see where that takes it. And then, of course, we'll dive on into all of our ensembles and everything, too. But these two I haven't looked at yet today. So I wanted to take a quick look at it. And it looks like the H-Mon is really right in alignment with the H-Wharf model. And this is all going to come down to its intensity. I don't think these two Hurricane models are going to be anywhere close to correct. Both of these have a Cat 2 Hurricane, like literally tomorrow night. Or the day following. So Thursday morning into tomorrow night, they literally have a Category 1, Category 2 hurricane. And I just don't think that's going to happen. I think that is way too rapid of intensification of air. And I just don't see that being a possibility. In my opinion, I just don't see how that's going to happen. But, I mean, you never know. Currently, Aaron is looking absolutely horrible, though. Taking a look at it, of course, the sun is setting way out here, so we're going to go back about 40 minutes or so back into the past here to get a little bit daylight look at it. And, I mean, it really doesn't have anything to it. I mean, it's this large area of circulation, very large circulation here, and there has been some little bubblers, little thunderstorms starting to pop up on it, but really it has just done nothing special at the moment. And I think that will change slowly as we go into tomorrow night, but I don't expect this to do anything tonight or really tomorrow night into what is that, Thursday morning. Yeah, tomorrow night into Thursday morning, that's when we should see some gradual intensification out of Aaron. Today it's just probably going to stay at 45 miles per hour. Tomorrow likely going to stay at 45 miles per hour. And then tomorrow night, maybe it can push up to about 50, 55 miles per hour. And then Thursday morning, it goes from about 50 mile per hour winds sustained tomorrow to about 65 Thursday morning. That's the current NHC forecast. So gradual strengthening is expected tomorrow night into all day Thursday. And then Friday, we're anticipating this to potentially rapidly intensify from a mid-tier, maybe upper tier Cat 1, all the way to a low-end Category 3 from Friday to about Sunday morning. This thing should be rapidly intensifying. That's from about this point, generally, like right here. It should be a mid-tier Cat 1 and then low-tier Cat 3 at that point. So according to the NHC, pretty much expecting rapid intensification within a about 24-hour time frame here. You can see this goes up. This is definitely a lot less rapid, actually, on their newest advisory. This only goes up by 10 miles per hour. Yesterday, they had it going from like 100 mile per hour Cat 2 right to 115 in like 12 hours. So they did back off a little bit on the intensity there. So instead of 24 hours, it actually takes 48 hours to go from a low-end Cat 1 all the way to a low-end Cat 3. But that's about 30 miles per hour there in 48 hours. That's still pretty fast, but that would not meet the classification of rapid intensification. That doesn't actually meet the definition of rapid intensification. So again, the NHC advisory here, this is the 11 o'clock advisory. You can see it has shifted further to the south. Yesterday, that 3 right here, it was angled a lot more to the north. I can actually go ahead and pull it up. Let's see here. I'm going to pull up the latest NHC cone, and I'm going to do the loop of it real quick for you. We're going to go to the archive, and we're going to the graph archives here. So this is the last few advisories that the NHC has done for Aaron here. I just watch how that cone shifts quite a bit more, actually, to the south and west. So also notice the kind of trajectory here. It changes from like a due northwest. If we go back like 2 on that, you can see how sharply angled to the northwest that is, right? Like they're already thinking at this advisory, they were thinking it's going to start turning pretty well north at this point. And the newest few advisories, you can see how much, especially compared to the very early morning update about 5 a.m. this morning to the 11 a.m. update this morning, big shift off to the south and west. So that's like the last 4 to 5 NHC advisories there. Let's see here. I'm trying to look up something real quick. Okay, there we go. So yeah, that is the last 4 advisories from the NHC. I just wanted to show you guys how much this has shifted on the NHC's forecast in the last couple of, well, days. In this case, I believe this is about a full day of advisories here, a good 24 hours worth of advisories. So yeah, let's go ahead and dive into some more model runs here. Instead of looking at the NHC cone, let's go ahead and dive into some more of the nitty gritty on what Aaron could do here. So we're going to use tropical tidbits for these deterministic runs here. I might have to, yeah, I'm going to have to switch y'all over to this scene. Hopefully everything's okay. Yeah, looks normal. It looks normal. Surprisingly, nothing's broken on this scene. Feels like a first. So right off the bat, I want to just say straight up, I'm disregarding the GFS. This is a GFS model run, and just straight up, it seems like it is doing a horrible job with this system. It keeps changing like every single model run. I think a model that is handling this much better now is the Euro, but unfortunately, we don't get the 12Z European model run on this site until probably another good hour, maybe even 2 hours. We'll get the 12Z. It's a lot later on Tropical Tidbits. So I think the Euro model is doing much better. It keeps this very weak all day tomorrow, and then it begins strengthening this on Thursday afternoon. So a bit later than much of the other model runs. Thursday afternoon, some very gradual strengthening, and then Friday night is when it really strengthens this all the way from a mid-tier tropical storm to a probably high-end tropical storm by Friday, or rather Saturday morning. So Friday night, it's a low-end tropical storm. Saturday morning, mid-tier, if not high-end tropical storm. And then Sunday, it goes from a high-end tropical storm to a major hurricane in that very short time frame. So it would probably rapidly intensify at that point. I mean, it goes from about a 996 millibar Saturday morning, and then Sunday morning it's at 981, 983. So that drops a good solid like 15 or so millibars there. And then over the next 12 hours, it drops a additional 10 or so millibars, at least on the European model run. So a very quick strengthening. Very, very quick strengthening is expected in this corridor here. I'm not too sure. I think this is really going to determine what the system does, to be honest with you. This little area back out in here is going to determine what the system does, because however much it strengthens in that time frame is going to depend on however much it turns going into early Saturday morning. If this thing is a category 3, category 4 somehow, hurricane, by the time we get to Friday, it's probably just going to steer right out to sea very, very quickly. And that's what models like the HWRF, which is our hurricane model run, actually has here. So it gets it to, this is very quick intensification. So low-end tropical storm Wednesday, and then going into Thursday night, it is a hurricane. Friday, category 2 hurricane. Friday morning, category 3. Friday night, and then probably category 4, I would say, sometime on Sunday morning, it has it a category 4 there. And if it is a category 4 on Sunday, you can see the last few frames how sharply this turns north. So if it is really, really strong, then this ridge right here, you could see the edge of that high pressure. That high pressure is going to try its best to grab this hurricane and slingshot it up towards Bermuda. So I'm kind of thinking, this is my thinking here, is if this is a category 4 or a high-end category 3 hurricane, then it's likely going to be shot straight up and out to sea and probably put Bermuda at a very high risk of a major hurricane impacts there, maybe even a landfall, if it does end up going this far north. Now, that's the problem. We've got some big uncertainty between these model runs. The HWRF, very, very aggressive and very far north. Whereas like the HAFSB, which thankfully has fixed itself, that takes it a little bit further south on some of the older ones. But look at the big change here. Like, huge change between the last 2 HAFSB runs here. So we just have so much uncertainty on exactly where it's going to go. And that is literally the difference between this heading towards the eastern coastline of North Carolina or just completely going out to sea. Either way, if you're in eastern North Carolina, a landfall looks unlikely from this system, but the closer it gets to the US, the more impacts it's going to have in terms of rip currents, tides, and then if it does manage to clip the edge of NC, we could be talking about extra impacts, but the chance of it hitting NC at this point looks pretty low, but we'll dive into that a bit further once I go to the ensembles. I do want to take a look at the HAFSA as well to see what that has, so probably a borderline category 5 there. Very upper echelon category 4, probably pushing borderline category 5 hurricane there Sunday afternoon. And I mean, it varies so much. Like you have some models that has this literally being a tropical storm on Sunday, and others want a borderline category 5 hurricane. So, just a crazy amount of uncertainty, between these model runs. So I do want to dive into the ensembles because those are going to be better to use. I just want to take a quick look at, hold on, actually, I want to take a look at the icon. I haven't looked at the icon today before I dive on into the ensembles. Oh, well, that's something. Okay, so that is... Yo, where's the ridge? Like, your high pressure is kind of broken down there. This thing just doesn't want to turn on the icon model. That's interesting. And, oh my goodness. I don't think this model run is going to be... I don't think this thing's accurate. So it has a Cat 3, borderline Cat 4 here, and then another tropical storm here, and then 2 other tropical systems trying to form back down over here. So I don't think the icon model run's very accurate there. Let's try the Canadian model run. Much, much more realistic with how that ridge would grab it. You could see how it strengthens into probably no more than a Category 1 hurricane at that point. Yeah, 992 millibar. That's still a tropical storm. And the ridge just grabs it. And you know what? I can spot exactly why. Because you get a low pressure right here. So you have a low pressure that's pushing this way. And a high pressure that's pushing this way. And that gives it a very clear corridor to just go right up like this. So the Canadian model run is definitely one of the model runs that has it pulling out to sea. But the big problem is it relies completely off of this low pressure. If that low pressure is not there, then it's probably not going to turn as sharply. It would still turn, just not as quickly as what the Canadian model run is depicting. I want to show you guys the ensembles. Ensembles are your best friends. Definitely your best friend. Really doesn't matter what type of weather you're looking at. If it's severe weather, snow, or hurricanes, ensembles are just the best. So we're going to go about, give or take, around 110 hours out here. Just to get it far enough to where we can see it towards Bermuda. And these are your GFS ensembles. All of these, except for a very select few, keep it at a tropical depression to tropical storm, all the way until it gets just to the northeast of the Lesser Antilles. So not aggressive whatsoever. And then you could see some of these take it very far north here and curve it right out to sea. But there's that main batch. There's a main batch of ensembles right in here. That's where most of your ensemble members are. And that's because this is fairly weak at first. And I really think this is way too far north. I mean, most of these ensembles are really, really far north of the Lesser Antilles. I do think we could have a close call for the Lesser Antilles here. So I would say even a later turn than this. I'm really thinking between Bermuda and like east of North Carolina. That's really like the main area I'm thinking this is going to go. I think it's going to be further on the southern side of these ensemble tracks and then curve up like that. That's probably your most likely case scenario at this point. Very strong high pressure over here. Good news if you're in the U.S., there's a huge high pressure over the Central Plains at this point, so it is impossible for this to be like a direct landfall in the U.S. Just whatsoever. Now, it may be able to skim North Carolina. That's like the worst case scenario at this point. But a direct landfall for the U.S., I find it nearly impossible. And then for this to go anywhere towards southeastern Florida, I think that is also extremely unlikely. I do want to go to the European ensembles. We'll flop between both of these. And this is something that I'm not able to fathom on why the Euro ensembles are so aggressive. Like, pretty much all but just a handful of these ensembles are category 3 plus status. I don't know why it is all so insanely aggressive, but you can see they're all pink. Pretty much all of these are pink and red tracks indicating category high end category 2, mostly category 3 hurricanes here on the European ensembles. And still, I want to follow these further southern tracks here. So follow this southern ensemble, and you can see where that's going to go to. Is this... Okay, this is not as far out as we can go. I want to watch this one right there. See if this... Okay, that does still sharply curve it away from NC. But look how close some of these are getting to North Carolina, man. Some of these are getting way too close for comfort. And if that's a Category 3 hurricane or even a Category 2 hurricane, there's definitely going to be some big-time rip currents that are probably going to end up shutting down the beaches here in North Carolina and South Carolina. Because, I mean, if this is a Cat 3, Cat 4, and it's only 50 miles, maybe 100 miles, I'd say 100 miles east of North Carolina, that's going to be some crazy rip currents. And you can see there's really two main batches of ensembles here. Really two main batches. You have the batch that goes well east of NC and near Bermuda, and then you have the other batch that goes barely about 100 miles east of North Carolina. And a lot stronger ensembles here on the European ensemble runs, obviously. And this is 12Z for those who are wondering, so this is the newer ensembles that we got earlier this afternoon. So, long story short, we don't know. There you go. Long story short. That's why the thumbnail is full of question marks. There's about 5 question marks on that thumbnail. Because we just simply don't know. But what I can say for certain is, if you are anywhere along the eastern seaboard, is keep an eye on this. Especially if you are planning a vacation. Keep a very close eye on this. Because beaches are going to be impacted from this. All the way from Florida up to Nova Scotia. We're going to have impacts mainly in the form of, obviously, rip currents and tides. Because this thing's not going to be like a tropical storm or a Category 1 hurricane. Really, I don't see a way how this is anything weaker than a major hurricane by the time it gets near Bermuda. By the time it gets to this general area, I don't see a way how it's anything weaker than a low-end Category 3 hurricane. So... those are really the main ensembles. We can compare it between the GFS again. I just don't agree with the GFS at all. Even the ensembles are definitely a bit better, but still, I don't agree with like this batch of tracks. I don't think that's going to be the case. And we'll know a lot more Friday, Saturday, because it all comes down to the strength of this. The weaker, especially, this is really evident with these weaker ensembles that stay weak, but they're just so far north. I just don't think we're going to be that far north. Let me go to the 0Z ensembles from yesterday. Wow, I don't know why that's so much more aggressive. All of those are all pinks and reds there. But, okay, you can see a clear southwest shift here. So that's 00Z from yesterday. And then 12Z from today. You can definitely see a little shift to the south and west. But I don't really agree with how far north it is. Because, again, if we just go to our hurricane models here, the HAFSB probably has the best hold on this. It did very, very well last year, so... that's what I've really been paying attention to. And you could see, I mean, this is not too far from the Northern Lesser Antilles. So really, I mean, you're talking about the ultra southern tracks here on these GFS ensembles. Those are the only ones that I think are remotely correct. And I didn't even see those. 963 millibar into South Carolina. That is... I don't know what that one's on because I just don't see a way how that's going to be a possibility. I mean, that would just be insane. I would just disregard that. I do want to go to the Euro ensembles here. Once again. And again, if this does hit the US, it's going to be like a barely barely a landfall. I think it would barely skim eastern NC. And there is still plenty of time for this to shift west. I want to reiterate that too. If this shifts a little bit south and we don't get a hurricane until Friday night, maybe even Friday afternoon, that is going to shift all these ensembles. Every single one of them is going to shift west, and maybe once it, back down here to the south. So we could trend that way to where it's either going to shift west and south, or we could trend the complete opposite. Who knows? We can trend the other way, which so far hasn't happened. These trends of a south and west trend, they've been happening for a solid almost, what? Yeah, about a good 24 to 30 hours now. Things have been shifting to the south and west, so we just keep trending more and more to the southwest. And I think we're just going to keep trending there. As long as this stays weaker, as long as this continues to stay weaker, I think we could continue to see that southern and western shift closer and closer to the northern Lesser Antilles, the far eastern Bahamas, and then even the eastern seaboard here, especially in North Carolina. You can see how North Carolina sticks out just a little bit there. Yeah, it's most likely going to stay mainly a fish storm. But the thing is, it's still going to cause impacts along the eastern U.S. Even if it is west of Bermuda, a good 200 miles east of any states, it's still going to cause coastal impacts in terms of rip currents and tides. So, yeah, I do agree with it. Like, it's mainly going to be out to sea. I don't think we're going to have a direct landfall in the U.S. But I think this is becoming more and more likely, where we have a close call west of Bermuda and barely east of NC. Even if this does stay as like a tropical storm till, like, say, an absurd north of Puerto Rico, which I think is nearly impossible, even then it's going to recurve. I want to take a look. Actually, this is insane, the GFS, because I did say I kind of want to avoid the GFS, but I'm going to use the Euro. I'm going to use the Euro. I think the Euro has it. Euro, do you have 500? Yes. I was looking for this. 500 vorticity, 500 millibar vorticity. This is your kind of jet stream mixed in with your vorticity here. So, you could see, geez. That's me realizing the Euro and the GFS are vastly different with that high pressure. So your main high pressure is located over here, but still the steering current from your high pressure is all up in here. You could see those wind barbs still going all the way around. So, but your main high pressure is located way back over here. So in this case, and with how far south that is, the good news is we do have a high pressure here too. And you can see, very clear window, right? I just drew out a very clear track. If you've got a high pressure that's blocking right here, and you've got a high pressure that's blocking here, where's it going to go? It's going to go just like this. It's going to go exactly like that. And then we do have this huge trough up here. Absolute ginormous trough here. I don't think that's going to play a huge role in this because it's so far north. If that was down towards, like, the main low pressure down towards, like, far southern Canada, it would play a role. But in this case, the European model one has a very clear steering current west of Bermuda and east of North Carolina. And the GFS, I'm really curious on why the GFS takes it so sharp. Oh, I can actually tell you. Look at that. You could see your another main high pressure right here. So you've got two high pressures right in there. And that allows for a much stronger grip on your hurricane. And then again, of course, you have your high pressure here still blocking too. So that allows for, I suppose, a little bit more of an eastern trajectory because your high pressure is stronger. And then I'm very curious if we can look at the icon, please. Yeah, the icon model run, this is what's most interesting to me. Absolutely most interesting because it still has a strong, large, high pressure here. Yet it goes very, very far west. Like this is literally its trajectory is heading just like this on the icon model run. So all three of our main deterministics, GFS, icon, and the Euro. Also want to check the CMC. So that high pressure just, it's very consistent on generally where the high pressure is located, but exactly where it's located is going to matter a lot. And also, I want to check the icon once again. I want to check where the icon sits at. Let's see. So the icon, try to just remember that. So it's, I'm going to mark it actually. I'm going to mark it with a blue point. Mark it right there. And I want to see the GFS. All right, so the GFS is a bit further north. That's probably another reason why the GFS takes it out to sea quicker and a much faster turn. And then look at it. Look, it gets hit by that main jet stream. It just flies out of here. It flies out of here very quickly. And then I also want to check the Euro model. Very well in line with the icon. Surprisingly well in line with the icon. And the Canadian, pretty close. Pretty close. A little bit in between the icon and the GFS. But definitely closer to the icon as opposed to the GFS. And this is the Canadian. And that takes it almost over, if not over, Bermuda. So I really think we're talking about this thing going between Bermuda and east of NC. That's really the main area. I think that's going to be our main region to keep an eye on here. I think the furthest east, the absolute furthest east this thing goes is barely east of Bermuda. I think that is the absolute furthest this thing goes. What about the Euro AI model? I know that has been a big talk here. And yeah, that I also agree with. I agree with this in between Bermuda and North Carolina. I agree with that. And now your trough is a little bit further south here. The further this northern trough is, the faster this thing's going to get pulled. So you can see this is your main, kind of where your main trough starts right in here. And this bad boy is going to grab a hold of this system once it hits that blue line. And you can see the GFS also has it right about there. And I mean, it just grabs it fast. When it grabs it, and it hauls it out of here. But all it takes is this system to be a bit further south, and I think we have trended a lot more towards this thing going more to the south-southwest. I really, really think this is trending more to the south-southwest with every model run. We'll take a look at the ensembles on Tropical Tidbits as well. And also want to note the ensembles are way further to the west than the deterministic GFS. So the deterministic GFS is just one run. Every 6 hours we get a new run of that. And that's generally right in here. So your deterministic GFS is significantly further to the east than your main batch of other ensembles. What that means is the GFS, the single deterministic run that we have right now, is a bit of a lower chance of actually happening because it is one of the few runs that is away from our ensembles. Which might be easier to explain here. Is this not old? Yeah, this is the old one. I recognize that. So the deterministic GFS is like one of these ensembles, right? But our main group, our main batch, our overwhelming, most likely case scenario is over here. At least according to the GFS ensembles. So we should see the deterministic GFS shift a little bit more west. Is the ridge blocking this storm out to sea? It's steering it out to sea. It is blocking it from going directly out to sea right now, You can see your ridge is up here, and then it's steering like this. So it's blocking it from just going like, straight up or something like that. So that's what's helping it to move more to the west. It's currently, I think it's still moving a bit more to the southwest. The more vertically stacked Aaron gets, the more to the west it's going to be able to move, because this high pressure is really going to get a hold of it once it strengthens further. And if it doesn't strengthen further, the high pressure is going to get a hold of it later. So the sooner this thing strengthens, the quicker the high pressure is going to get a hold of it, and the more the high pressure is going to be steering it, as opposed to just the system steering itself. Another thing is, if we zoom in here, holy typhoon. Well, that typhoon's going crazy. That's near Taiwan. But I want to take a look at Aaron and True Color. So you can see very exposed. Very, very exposed. I apologize for the frequent flashing there. Very exposed, low pressure. And it does not have a lot of high cloud tops at all. It's not in a favorable environment for the next, at minimum, the next 12 hours. It is in a very unfavorable environment. And you can see there's some little vorticity blobs to its southeast that may be helping to steer it a little bit further to the west-southwest as well. It looks like its trajectory is almost due west at this point. Looping this, it's looking like to me it's moving more due west. Maybe very, very barely southwest. But yesterday it was moving almost due southwest. Like, it was up here yesterday and it moved due southwest, and now it's taken more of that westerly turn. Let's see. What are the chances for Aaron to hit Florida? What category would it be? The chance of a hit in Florida is very, very low with a direct landfall. But the beaches of eastern Florida are probably going to get a lot of rip currents and some higher tides because of this. And this model run is like as far east as Aaron's probably going to go. A more realistic scenario would be this model run, which would take it probably very close to the Bahamas. I would watch it in Florida. If you're in Florida, eastern Georgia, South Carolina, North Carolina, I would keep an eye on this. It doesn't hurt to watch it at all. I don't think any of those areas will be seeing a direct impact, but it doesn't hurt to keep an eye on it. And like I said, the beaches, definitely going to be seeing a lot of rip currents and some tides. Someone just shared with me this image, and this really sums up our forecast on Aaron. This gives you the full picture of what we're trying to explain here. This thing could be weakening even as low as a very low end tropical storm. It could explode into a Cat 4. It could slowly intensify into a Cat 1, Cat 2 over the next 4 or 5 days. Or it could do what the NHC is calling for, slowly strengthen to a mid-tier tropical storm the next 2 days, and then a hurricane in the next 3 days, and then a major hurricane in 5 days, becoming Category 3. Model runs all over the place. They're all over the place. But you can see, this is what I've been trying to reiterate. There's this group of models right in here. There's a group of models and a group of ensembles that are sticking together, and that's what I'm basing things off of, is that main batch. There's the possibility that this thing is much weaker for much longer, which would pull it more west. There's the possibility this thing is much stronger, much quicker, which would pull it quicker out to sea. I'm going in between that, to where it's not very weak, but definitely not a Category 4 in 4 to 5 days. Look at the Euro AI. Go to the end of the run. I did see it. I'll go back to it for those who didn't see it. It's kind of like... It's weird how we have two models saying that. You know, that's kind of got me a little bit more watching this for Eastern NC. The Icon and the AI Euro. Both are pretty close. They get pretty close to eastern NC. Again, no direct landfall or anything like that, but still, you could see like the outer millibar of this. The outer millibar goes into eastern NC, which all that really means is you're probably going to get some larger tides and some higher surfs. But we'll have to see which way things trend. The AI Euro model has been very aggressive. At one point, this literally had it making landfall in South Carolina. Let me see if I can find that run for you. I remember it. Yep, there you go. This one, the AI Euro has been very aggressive. So it's actually kind of trended the opposite. It started really far southwest, and it's slowly started to trend closer to what our other model runs are saying. Because you could see if I go far back here, you could see it was actually in the Bahamas, and then it slowly trended more northeast because that's what our other guidance has been saying. So your other guidance started like your ensembles and your deterministics. Those started with this thing being east of Bermuda, and it's slowly shifted to it being southwest and west of Bermuda. The AI Euro started with it making landfall in South Carolina, and has slowly shifted closer to where it gets towards, just barely west of Bermuda. So overall, the AI Euro is starting to be more in line with our other guidance. I think the AI Euro is pretty good. The only problem is it seems like when the system first forms, it's always on a different path. It's always trying to predict something that no other model or ensemble is showing. Like the AI Euro, sometimes it feels like the GFS. Where it shows 300 hours out a storm hit in South Carolina. And then as you get closer, it trends further and further away from land. I will say, though, at least it's a little bit more gradual with its trend here. You can see it's gradually shifting to the northeast. It's not like the GFS where it just completely shifts the whole system from North Carolina to Bermuda in literally one run. I think it literally moved. The GFS deterministic moved 1,000 miles in one single run. I mean, it just changes so much. I do want to do a zoomed in view of the European ensembles here on Tropical Tidbits. We don't do this frequently at all. This is yesterday's runs, though. And you can see how close these get, but only like I'm talking maybe one or two ensemble members actually have this making landfall in the Outer Banks of NC. The lower the pressure, the stronger. So, 800 pressure is absurd. That's unheard of. That is unheard of. A 900 millibar, that would be equivalent to like it depends. They vary. 900 millibar hurricane could be a low wind category 5, or it could be closer to like a 150 or rather 180 mile per hour hurricane like Milton last year. But generally, the lower the millibar, the stronger the system. But each millibar is not set at a wind speed. So for like a tropical storm, 1,005 to like 990 is considered about a tropical storm. But we have had hurricanes with pressures in the 990s. So the pressure generally, it's a general idea that the storm is stronger the lower the millibar, but it still can vary, and it does vary. And then obviously the higher the millibar, you're going to get towards a high pressure. Hurricanes are low pressures, hence the lower pressure. And high pressures are higher pressures. You can see high pressure, 1,024. Low pressure, 946. Yeah, Milton was like, what, 897? I think Weather Warrior's correct with that. That sounds right. This is the NavGem model run. Shockingly, it is at least a bit correct. Like, this model has been so far off before. I'm surprised it doesn't take this into, like, Louisiana. Because normally when I look at this model run, it is as far away from possible as you can get. So I'm actually very shocked it is somewhat in line. I look at this model run just to see how far off it is. I'm actually very surprised it's generally in line with some guidance. Let me turn this to... Let's see, I'm going to turn this to the ozone layer. That way it's kind of like night vision. That's satellite imagery. Oh, there's the NHC advisory. Forecast to become a hurricane over the central tropical Atlantic in a couple days. Yep, no shocker. I don't think they're going to change much with this advisory. So the 5 o'clock advisory is out. Typically it is early, so no surprise that it is. And I'm going to do the archive so we can compare this. Let's go to the archive. Let's go all the way out to day 5 with a line. And this is the 5 o'clock advisory. Ooh, actually, big time change. Huge change here. Pretty huge change. Look at the big shift north. So on the newest advisory, they have really shifted that cone north towards the end. Which we should see it continue to shift north. The further we get in time, the more north this cone should shift. Because, I mean, I would imagine the cone's going to get up to Bermuda at some point. The cone's probably going to be up like that eventually. So we should see this continue to shift a little bit east and north with each advisory as time progresses because, well, the storm's going to be moving. It's not going to be stationary. So just a comparison, old advisory, new advisory, old advisory, new advisory. They did also push it being a hurricane at 2 a.m. Friday morning as opposed to 8 p.m. Thursday night. So they also did change that. I doubt they changed the exact wind speeds of it. Let me go read it real quick. Forecast advisory, 5 o'clock. Make sure this is the 5 o'clock advisory. It is. Yep, 115 mile per hour wind sustain for the last point, which is a major hurricane still. So they still have it being a major hurricane. I don't expect that to change. I think we will stay at the last point being a major hurricane status for the time being. Also just got information. Recon is preparing to fly into Aaron on Thursday evening. That is huge. That is huge. Recon is huge because that literally can completely change guidance. That allows for way more accurate information because that data is put directly into models, especially hurricane models. So Recon will fly in Aaron probably Thursday evening. Let's see. If it doesn't strengthen quicker, it won't shift north that fast. Yep. Yep, that's exactly what's going to happen, because if it stays weaker, it's not going to be influenced by that high pressure. For instance, right now, it's moving due west. And it will continue to move due west until it strengthens and then gets grabbed by that high pressure. It could be as early as Saturday where that high pressure gets a hold of it. But it's likely going to be closer to Sunday night before that high pressure really starts turning it. Maybe even Monday. So let's go ahead and look here at the HAFSA again. I want to look at this trend. Something was wrong with the model runs earlier this morning. Literally, like, look at the difference. This was the morning run very, very early this morning. Like, we're talking 5 a.m. this morning early. And then this was the afternoon run. Something was wrong with the HAFS A and B early this morning. Now, if it stayed that far south, that would be insane. If this actually did occur where it stays like just a couple miles from the northern Lesser Antilles, it would not be grabbed by that high pressure at all. And not until it gets to probably Bermuda. Or not Bermuda, rather Bahamas, into just east of Florida. It would take more of a track like this. It would take a much more westerly track, but that's not going to happen. I don't think that's in the realm of possibilities, really. I just don't see a way how this doesn't strengthen for literally 5-6 days straight. And then, of course, the newest one literally puts it from... Like, the last one had a low-end tropical storm, maybe even a tropical depression, and then the newest one has high-end Cat 4, borderline Cat 5 at the same frame, so... I don't know, y'all. We'll have to see how it intensifies. Its intensification process is so important. It is so important. The quicker it strengthens, the quicker it's going to go out to sea. So the bad news though is, of course, it is also going to strengthen, so we're going to have more rip currents. But if it strengthens quicker, then it is going to stay away from land. Like if it does become a Category 4, Category somehow 5 hurricane north of the Lesser Antilles, it's going to stay north of the Lesser Antilles. But I don't think a Category 5's on the table that soon. That's insane. Hopefully these models will get a lot more accurate Thursday night, and especially Friday when we get our recon data into them. So recon, I mean, holy cow, like Thursday, dude. It's going to be a far trip. I think... Are they allowed to stop? I know they're allowed to stop in somewhere in the Caribbean islands. Like it's either back towards like eastern Cuba or like Puerto Rico or the Lesser Antilles. I remember last hurricane season, we had a hurricane out here, and I remember seeing them land somewhere out here to refuel or start out here. I know there's reconnaissance that either begins out here or can refuel out here. So they're not going to be going from like Louisiana over to the South Central Atlantic. Or this is actually still considered the Central Atlantic. I just don't know where that is. I don't know where our base is there. Oh, also another thing I wanted to mention is, geez, that typhoon is crazy, but that's not what I was wanting to mention. It's actually water vapor imagery real quick. I just saw Catman talk about warm, moist air, and it reminded me of all the dry air that we have in front of this system. So I do believe this is going to keep it from intensifying still over at least the next 12 to 24 hours, if not well after that, because we have such dry air. And if that dry air can get into the core, which it's probably partially in the core already, but if it can stay into that core and really infiltrate the core, that's probably why some of our model runs don't intensify it until like Sunday. Matter of fact, hurricane model time, once again, going to the HAFSA, going to Aaron, and we're going to go to that old run that did not strengthen it. We're going to zoom out. And I want to take a look at, please have, yes. This is the wrong one. This is 12Z. Interesting. So it doesn't even have a lot of dry air. It just doesn't strengthen it. So this is where we're at right about now. Right here is about where we're at, where you have this tiny little low pressure and all this dry air out in front of it. And that dry air definitely gets into the system. You can see it does infiltrate the southern and then eventually the eastern side of that water vapor, that more moist water vapor and moisture. But it just doesn't strengthen it, so I think that's just a model run flaw right there for a bit. I don't see a way how this doesn't strengthen on Thursday into Friday. And the new run, look at Thursday and Friday. New run has a major hurricane Thursday night, and then a Cat 4 either probably Sunday. Yeah, Saturday, Sunday. Look at that. It drops quick. It goes from 9:56 Sunday morning to 9:33 Sunday afternoon. Like 12 hours, that thing drops a good 20 millibars on this particular model run. Actually, not even. Look at... Okay, that's absurd. That is crazy. In 9 hours, it goes from 9:56 to 9:31 on this run. And then again, you have other runs that just literally barely even strengthens it into a tropical storm. I'm really interested to see the Euro. Is the Euro out? Because I know Tropical Tidbits takes a while, so I'm going to go to a different site real quick and see if the Euro is out. Okay, it is out. I want to see what this has. Ooh, yikes. I believe that would be a Category 5 hurricane right there. So that's another model run on board with a Cat 5. The good news is it's in the middle of the ocean, so... it takes it north of Puerto Rico, very well north of Puerto Rico, very well north of the Lesser Antilles. Doesn't become a hurricane until Saturday morning, which the NHC says, what, Thursday morning was it? Okay, no, they have a hurricane on the morning of the 15th, which is Friday morning. So that's quite a bit ahead of time than the Euro model. And the Euro still takes it in between Bermuda and North Carolina. It does not hit North Carolina with any direct impacts. And then this thing becomes a 931 high-end Cat 4, maybe even Cat 5. Extremely north of Bermuda. And extremely southeast of Long Island. Nobody's saying it's not going to be a fish storm, but just because it's a fish storm doesn't mean it won't have impacts. If you get a Category 5 hurricane 100 miles east of North Carolina, you're going to get some big-time rip currents and tides. But I don't think we'll see any landfalls from this, at least anymore. It obviously went right over right over Cape Verde. Let me go ahead and zoom out again. So if you're just tuning in and you missed the main model analysis, I might do some more still here. The overall thinking is that it will become a major hurricane north of the Lesser Antilles, likely a little bit south than what this GFS model run has. It will be a Category 3 hurricane sometime on Sunday, maybe as soon as late Saturday, and then probably turn up into just between Bermuda and Eastern NC. That's what I'm thinking. But again, anybody in this area, it doesn't hurt to keep an eye on it because, you know, we could see if this gets really far west, we could see maybe some outer bands in North Carolina if it gets extremely far west. If it doesn't, then we're still going to see rip currents and tides and a couple of, you know, higher waves along the coastal areas and the beaches here. We're really talking about rip currents being the main impact along the southeastern U.S. I just don't see a way how it makes landfall in the southeastern U.S. It's not technically impossible, but we're going to have to see some big-time trends. We're going to have to see some huge trends, and I'm curious. So the GFS doesn't have a low pressure west of Bermuda. The icon is rendering in now. That's a bit further back. And I mean, you could see the icon takes this. You know, that's not a good look right there. It's not turning it at all on the icon model. But then if we go to like the European AI, which looks like it's doing, well, actually that's not even close. Not even close to what the icon is showing, so. Yeah, let me see. I don't think this has wave heights. No, it doesn't. The GFS might have wave heights. Yeah, so this is wave height, and man, look at that. Even if this is like a category 3 or stays category 3, which I think it's going to make a run at cat 4, even if it stays at cat 3, I mean, that's going to cause a lot of extra waves for southeastern portions of the US. But obviously the main waves and the storm surge is going to be out to sea. And again, I mean, it has a chance to hit Bermuda. It has a chance to hit Bermuda. It's very difficult for a hurricane to hit Bermuda because Bermuda is obviously not a very big island. But Bermuda is definitely going to see impacts from this system. It's just a matter of if it's going to be, major impacts. Major impacts referring to, 100-mile-an-hour winds, storm surge, flooding, and all that stuff. So we are getting the new icon in, but it only goes out 120 hours, which means it's not going to be anywhere close to getting towards the US. The new icon will go out to about like here. So it'll be north of Puerto Rico when the new icon's done rendering in. All right, back to the ensembles because I want to show you again. Because I know people are consistently tuning in and out here. We're going to zoom in just a tad bit. This is all the different possible scenarios just using the European ensembles. So it's a bunch of different scenarios put into one map from the European ensembles here. And you can see many of them have two specific tracks. One is very close to the eastern seaboard of North Carolina, very close to the very coastal areas and Outer Banks, right in there. And then the most likely case scenario is a very close call for Bermuda, just east of that other main batch of ensembles. So that's your two main batches of ensembles here. And also note these pink lines, that is a major category 3 plus hurricane. The red is a high-end category 2 hurricane. So pretty much all of these ensembles, except for a select few, are showing this being a high-end cat 2, low-end cat 3 hurricane. But the Euro model is not a specified hurricane model. So most likely it's going to be even stronger than what most of these ensembles are hinting towards. For instance, our hurricane models are suggesting upwards of a category 4 hurricane north of the Lesser Antilles, whereas you barely can make out like 3 or 4 ensembles that actually shows a cat 3 here on the Euro ensembles. Now, something I do want to note, I wonder if this gets it early. Oh my goodness, it is rendering 57 frames in. I thought it got it way earlier though. That is at least a little bit early. See if this is done. Okay, it is done on Tropical Tidbits. I don't know why on Tropical Tidbits it goes from not even rendering to completely done in like a minute, literally. So about 5 o'clock Eastern time is when the 12Z Euro is done on Tropical Tidbits. And you can see it has a, we'll say high-end cat 4, because there's definitely a good chance 932 is not a cat 5. We've seen it before many of times. So 932 millibar or around that. 932 millibar, about a high-end cat 4, maybe pushing cat 5. And it goes barely west of Bermuda. Barely west of Bermuda as a high-end cat 4. In this case, millibar 934. So very, very, very strong. And I want to pull this all the way back here. Because you can see the Euro model still has it being pretty far south. You know, that's right about where the NHC's main pinpoint forecast is with that line. I wish I could overlay it here, but I can't. But that's right about where the NHC is predicting it to be as a major hurricane. And the Euro says probably a Category 1 at this point. I'd say this is probably a weak Category 1, 986 millibar, likely right around a weak Cat 1 hurricane. And it still gets steered out pretty well up and out to sea, even with it being pretty weak and still a bit further south. I also want to do a broader view here because I want to take a look at the overall setup of this with the 500 millibar vorticity, which is here. So your trough really grabs it. I know this is switching a lot, but I do actually want to open a new tab. And I want to put this side by side with the icon 12Z. Because I'm curious why that trough grabs on the Euro. Actually, I could tell you right now. It's the angle of the trough. It's the angle of that trough. So on this one, it looks more positively tilted. You can see it looks more angled to the southeast. And on the Euro, which grabs it, it looks more angled, well angled to the southwest and negatively tilted trough. So that would have a better chance to grab it and then swing it out to sea as that trough tilts positively. So that could be something we need to watch really, really closely. And it looks like the icon... Okay, the icon has it being a negatively tilted trough Sunday morning, and then it turns positive Sunday afternoon, and it stays positive pretty much that entire time, just swings up there in Atlantic Canada. Yeah, and the Euro grabs it. So you can see as our cyclone is turning here. So at this point, negative, negative, and then it starts pointing to the northeast, and then you get a new axis here that points positive, neutral, negative, and then you get another swing, positive, neutral, and then negative, and that really, look at that. That wraps it up like crazy. That is an insane process right there. So that is also going to be a big player. This is going to be a big player on what happens, because if that stays positive and it just doesn't turn as much, or if it leaves sooner, it's not going to have as good of a hold on this system. Whereas if it does stay negative or keeps rotating that well, it can just grab the system very easily as it goes just east of North Carolina. And then the Euro also has a pretty intense high pressure that forms right in here. Pretty strong high pressure, so that's turning it very sharply up to the north, and then once that trough grabs it, it just yanks it out of here faster than fast. Like, it just gets out of here really, really quick. And you can see when that trough really grabs it, because this thing flies. It flies like crazy. Then it becomes extra tropical, probably right about these two frames here. And then the Euro has another tropical system towards the 22nd, 23rd or so. Which we are watching for that. There is the possibility for another tropical storm out here west of Cape Verde, going towards August 20th through the 25th. So we are watching for that. But first, we got to get through the soon-to-be Hurricane Aaron and currently Tropical Storm Aaron. Icon keeps it weak, too. Look at this. 60 hours. That's like 2.5 days. About 2.5 days right there. Icon keeps it as a very weak tropical storm. Whereas the older one also agreed. And the reason I point that out is because that means it's still on the same trajectory as the previous Icon model run. So these are all, 60 hours out on the GFS. This thing's a high-end tropical storm. Canadian model run, very low-end tropical storm. Icon model run, low-end tropical storm. And then hurricane models, this is going to be something, because 60 hours out, Category 2. HAFSA, Category 3, most likely. HAFSB. Category 3, most likely. HMON. Category 2. HWARF, I believe, is Category 2. Yep. So your hurricane models say Cat 2, Cat 3. Your deterministics are shifting between weak tropical storm and strong tropical storm. So that's going to be a big difference there. Is this thing a Category 2, Category 3 hurricane in 3 to 4 days? Or is it still chilling at a low to mid-tier tropical storm? And I can also tell you, that's going to be a huge forecasting standpoint too, because then we'll know how good our hurricane models have a hold on this system. So I'm going to compare that once we get to Thursday, before recon data gets implemented to the hurricane models. I'm going to take a look and see if the global models or the hurricane models have performed better thus far. So we'll see. Probably I'm going to bet hurricane models, because we call them hurricane models for a reason. But if not, then I'm sure by the time recon data gets implemented into the hurricane models, it's going to be more accurate. So won't be any content tomorrow because I don't expect any huge changes or anything like that. Maybe some small changes, but nothing crazy. So if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe to the channel with the notification bell set to all. It's greatly appreciated. We're not concluding just yet, but we are getting, towards that time frame. So if you have any questions or anything, go ahead and put them in the chat. I'll attempt to answer them. I appreciate over 10 people for subscribing to the channel. I greatly appreciate it. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. We're only 19 likes away from 100 likes. So depending on how things look, we may start up daily live streams on Thursday. We'll be live Thursday. I can guarantee a live stream on Thursday. I don't know about doing any more videos, honestly. I think we're going to stick with live streams for a while. So definitely a live stream Thursday. I can guarantee a live stream every other day. So Thursday's likely a live stream, Saturday, Monday, Wednesday, depending on how long this system lasts. It should be out of here. Likely Wednesday is when it's going to start going towards Atlantic, the northern Atlantic. So, but I imagine I'm going to start doing daily live streams because information could change very quickly. So I'll take a break tomorrow, and then I'll see you guys on Thursday, and then I imagine I'll be here Friday. I imagine I'll be here Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then we'll see what happens from there on out. I do want to go check that typhoon. This should be nearing... in my video, I forgot too. I forgot what we call typhoons. Is it like strong typhoon? I don't think they call it a major typhoon. I know a Cat 5 is a super typhoon. The newest update puts this at 100-mile-per-hour winds. That was at 2 o'clock Eastern. So it's about 15 miles shy of strong typhoon. Or major typhoon. Whatever Category 3 status is called out here in the Western Pacific. And it is gonna make a direct landfall in southeast Taiwan. Is that like a city there? I'm trying to see the population here. Let's go fly over here real quick to Taiwan. Ooh, my goodness. That is definitely a city. That is definitely a city right there. So that's going to make landfall late tonight. I'd say probably near, what, midnight or so? I can actually get you an idea on that. An idea on the timing. Actually, Okay, our models are screwed up on this. Where is it currently located? So it is located just east of that island. It might be a little bit later. It might be more towards early afternoon, like about noon tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. 11 a.m. 11 a.m. noon tomorrow Eastern time. I don't think this is going to make landfall tonight Eastern time. I think it will be tomorrow morning into early afternoon tomorrow. Is there a reason why the Gulf has been quiet this year so far? Because the year's just started for hurricane season. We are right on track with hurricane season and the named storms. If not, we are actually a little bit ahead of schedule for named storms. So we're sitting at about average to maybe a little above average at this point in terms of named storms and when we expect them. In terms of ACE, we're below average. That is about to change it very quickly, as Aaron will probably be a Cat 3, Cat 4, and going towards somewhere around Bermuda. Somewhere around Bermuda, it's probably going to be Cat 3, Cat 4. And the Gulf, I don't think the Gulf's going to wake up probably till September. Probably till September, honestly. I think the main development region will be the area to watch till the end of August, and then we'll see where things are for September, and we'll likely start to increase with activity in the Gulf. But the Gulf hasn't been, like, extremely quiet. Let's see. Let me see real quick. I'm trying to check something. Yeah, I just wanted to check. We've already had a tropical storm in the Gulf, the Southwest Gulf. And then we had our AOY start just west of Florida, and then it became a tropical storm just off the coastline of South Carolina. So we've already had one named storm in the Gulf. But we're going to have a big one. We're going to have a big one that's like a Cat 2, maybe Cat 3 in the Gulf at some point. It's just bound to happen every year. Now, sometimes we get very lucky. You know, sometimes that Category 2, Category 3 in the Gulf just ends up getting fizzled out by wind shear. But I'm sure we will have our chance at a major hurricane at some point this year in the Gulf. But I think the hot spot this year is going to be out here. I really think that's going to be the hot spot for our tropical activity this year. And then it's kind of like a 50-50 on what happens in the Gulf. We'll just have to see what happens in September. I mean, it's hard to predict it very accurately. I mean, we could use our climatology model runs, but let's see. I mean, those say above average for rainfall all over the place in the Caribbean and the Gulf, but that doesn't really give you an idea on how active the Gulf's going to be, because just because it's raining doesn't necessarily mean that there's going to be a tropical storm, so doesn't really do much good there. Like I said, the Gulf's going to wake up. We're definitely going to have our chance at a major hurricane there, whether it be from going from the main development region all the way into the Gulf, or starting in the Southwest Gulf and moving up north, or south of Florida, moving west. We're going to have a chance in the Gulf. Will Florida have a big chance? From this system, most likely just the eastern coastline and the beaches are going to have some impacts, mainly just the beaches in terms of rip currents and tides. If you're talking about as a whole, Florida always has a chance. Florida always has a chance for a hurricane. Every single hurricane season, Florida is probably one of the most at-risk states ever. I'd imagine they are the most at-risk state because how the peninsula divots south like that. But I do think this year, I think you have a bit below average chance, to be honest with you. I think there's a bit below average than normal chance for Florida to see a hurricane this year. But it's, you just still have a chance. You still have a chance. If you live anywhere on the Gulf coastline, you want to make sure a hurricane preparedness plan is ready to go, because we're eventually going to have a tropical system that's in the Gulf. It's just bound to happen. Just like how we see tropical storms in the main development region, we're going to see one eventually in the Gulf. ACE is accumulated cyclonic energy. I believe that is what it stands for. Catman would be the one who knows that exact definition. But there's your Gulf cooking, absolutely frying, 31, 32 Celsius there. And then you could see the southwest Atlantic right in here also cooking. So cooking. It's only a matter of time before a system with minimal wind shear goes in there and then absolutely intensifies. And that's what we're going to see with Aaron, generally somewhere. General track that I'm thinking is like that. That's what our ensembles are the most in agreement for. Going in between Bermuda and east of NC. Now, in terms of anomalies, I haven't checked this. Oh, yeah. Above average, above average, above average, above average, above average. And there's two little pockets of below average on the coastline of South Carolina and North Carolina. So pretty much your whole Gulf and your whole West Atlantic and a bit of some chunks of the Caribbean are above average. Even if they're average, don't get too caught up in that. Even if they're average, they're still cooking. 28 Celsius, that's still enough for a hurricane or a tropical storm to intensify. So even if they are below average at like 28, maybe 29, they're still going to be good enough to support tropical development. Yeah, no surprise. Oh, that's below average off the coastline of Africa. So, like I said, I really think our main area this hurricane season's right in here where this stuff's all cooking. Right there. I think that's our main hotspot this season. And like I said, we're bound to get one. At least one that goes like this into the Gulf, or this that goes into the Gulf, or like this. Bound to get one. But Aaron is currently located like right in here, right about at this 26. That's where Aaron's located. It gets a little bit favorable tomorrow, then going into Thursday, a little bit more favorable. Friday getting pretty favorable, and then Saturday gets really favorable, and then Sunday, it should be turning by the time we get to Sunday. And then Monday back up here, Tuesday, and then Wednesday. Wednesday is when we're expecting it to be north of Bermuda. Just to show you the NHC's current trajectory of this. So like I said, tomorrow still pretty weak. Tomorrow's still pretty weak. Going into Thursday, a little bit stronger. Thursday night, Thursday afternoon, might start hitting towards a hurricane according to the NHC. Friday, hurricane. Friday afternoon, hurricane. Going into Saturday, almost a major hurricane. Saturday night into Sunday morning, major hurricane. And then Monday it will be like up here, and then Tuesday up here, and then Wednesday up here. Most likely. Now, again, like the spread of it, if they continued that cone, like that cone would be ginormous. The later you go out, the larger the cone. So like tomorrow, the cone is this tiny, very tiny cone. If they did like a 7 or 8 day cone, that cone would be ginormous. Because let me show you all the ensembles here. Show you the ensembles again, real quick. Look at that. Look at the spread. Look how large of a spread we get after day 5. Huge spread. So just imagine the cone continuing. I mean, your cone would be just giant. It'd be small, a little bit bigger, and then this is where like the NHC stops right there at the day 5 time frame. And then day 6, huge. Day 7, ginormous. And then going into day 8, it just gets crazy large. So many different possibilities, which is why there's plenty of time for things to change with the forecast. All right, but I'm going to go get some supper. Thank you guys for hitting that like goal of 100 likes. If you haven't already, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel with the notification bell set to all. We will be live again probably about this same time, probably about 4 o'clock Eastern on Thursday. Just trying to think of my days. Thursday, about this time, we'll be live again. Probably going to have recon data either about to come in or coming in about that time. We should see recon go through this storm sometime in the evening. So, like I said, I'm going to go have my supper. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Of course, we're going to do outro music for those who are new. We do outro music and intro music here, just so for the intro gives enough time for people to come in, and then outro gives enough time for people to say bye. So what am I having? Chicken, mashed potatoes. Chicken and mashed potatoes. Can't go wrong with that. So that's what I'm going to go eat. I'm going to go eat me some food. So I appreciate y'all for tuning in once again. Hopefully you found this at least somewhat informative. If you do need the best information and you need it more frequently than what I can provide, please visit the National Hurricane Center or your local National Weather Service page for the best information, as the discretion does say in the description below. And again, hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your Tuesday. I'm going to go ahead and get this loop going up here. There we go. I would have gone 30 more minutes, but my food's ready, and we can't let the food get cold. That'd just be a crime. That would just be a crime. All right, well, let me go ahead and head over to the ending scene. I really appreciate you guys for tuning in. Again, hopefully you found this informative, and I will see you in Thursday's live stream, probably about 4 o'clock, around 4 o'clock Eastern time. If that changes, I'll just schedule it. I schedule it ahead of time. So if you want to tune into that live stream, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that notification bell, set it to all so you get the notification of when I go live. I appreciate all over 4,200 of you for tuning in, and over 100 of y'all for hitting that like button. It's really appreciated. And again, hope you have a great rest of your Tuesday. Thank you, mods for Mod Chat, everyone for being here. Stay safe, watch severe weather, and have a great rest of your day. Goodbye. Stay safe, watch for your weather in the tropics, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Again, thank you much for watching, chat, and everyone for supporting this live stream with over 4,300 views. Have a great rest of your day. Good.